Welcome to All About Art. My name is Alexandra, and I'm an art historian, curator, and writer. Within this podcast, topics relating to art history, cultural policy, the art sector, as well as a large range of other art-related topics will be covered. Conducting critical discussions, having entertaining exchanges, or just enjoying some relaxing chats, All About Art is where you'll find it all. Join me in exploring and developing cultural discourse. Before I dive in, I wanted to let you lovely listeners know that All About Art is on Patreon. So if you want some behind-the-scenes content, maybe a bit of merch, the chance to get one-on-ones with me and my guests, or you're simply wanting to support this project, I would be absolutely thrilled if you decided to sign up. You can do so through the link in the show notes. I also wanted to say thank you to those who have already signed up. Your support means the world, and it makes the further production, improvement, and growth of the podcast possible. And for that, I'm incredibly grateful. Welcome to another episode of All About Art. This one is on the topic of art censorship. I have already spoken on this topic in episode 15 of the podcast, and this is a follow-up from that case study. So if you haven't listened to that episode, I recommend you go and tune in. Just to jog your memory, in case you listened a while back, the example I looked at involved the US, the UK, Germany, and Austria. In 2017, to advertise for a year-long retrospective of Viennese modernism in Vienna, the Vienna Tourist Board chose to use nudes by Egon Schiele for their posters. The retrospective was supposed to tour internationally, showing in not only Vienna, but also Cologne and Hamburg in Germany, New York in the US, and here in London. When confronted with the suggestion by the Vienna Tourist Board to display the full nudes, the advertising regulators in Germany, the US, and the UK all refused to display the images uncensored. After a controversial reaction and the rejection of the proposal, the board resubmitted the posters with text covering what were considered to be the more quote-unquote obscene body parts in Schiele's works. The text that they used as a banner said, 100 Jahre alt und noch immer zu gewagt? Hashtag der Kunst ihre Freiheit. Which translates to, sorry, 100 years old but still too daring today. Hashtag to art its freedom. That case study prefaces the one I will be talking about in today's episode that involves the Vienna Tourist Board again, but this time it's online, not offline, and is connected to pornography. Oh, how the plot thickens. But first, I want to give some more background context. Last year, in 2021, the adult video streaming platform Pornhub decided to launch a series of classic nudes tours for 6 of the world's leading museums, including the Louvre in Paris, the Met in New York, the Prado in Madrid, and the Uffizi in Florence. Within the press release, it was stated that the aim was to stimulate the public to, quote, visit, explore, and fall back in love, or lust, with these cultural institutions. The platform offered the chance to either view the works online from the comfort of people's own homes or go and visit the museums in person, accompanied by an audio guide provided by Pornhub and recorded by an adult actress. They write captions that are quite funny, however, they're also informative to an extent. An example given within the art newspaper is of the Botticelli titled Spring, which is in the Uffizi in Florence. It is stated that the artist, quote, painted this for a dude called Lorenzo de' Medici to give to his new bride, presumably as a medieval mood starter. Which, I guess, does actually give context to the piece. Now, as you can imagine, this not only garnered a mixed response from the public in terms of if they liked the idea or not, but it actually ignited a lot of anger at the platform, from both the side of the public as well as from the institutions. The Louvre in Paris and the Uffizi actually launched legal action for the use of their paintings without their permission. Even though the adult film platform produced this content with the intention of helping museums under the motto, because porn may not be considered art, some art can definitely be considered porn, they ended up removing a large chunk of it because the museums disagreed. You may be thinking, why is she talking about Pornhub? Well, it's because this whole incident prefaced another that is also linked to sexual content online, censorship, and art, as well as Vienna. There is a relatively new platform called OnlyFans, and for those who don't know it, OnlyFans is a platform where content creators can earn money from users who subscribe to their pages. That's the basic principle. During the pandemic, however, it has developed and become incredibly popular with sex workers because of the community guidelines that allow for nudity. Even though many types of creators are on the platform, such as musicians, fitness instructors, and artists alike. But the Vienna Tourist Board is at it again, and despite the backlash of the Pornhub situation and the difficulties with the 2017 retrospective, they made a huge statement by moving all of their explicit content to OnlyFans. Similar issues arise with this situation. However, one of the biggest issues when the adult film website Pornhub used the museum's content was due to the fact that it was without the museum's consent. This is the Vienna Tourist Board itself finding use of social media, as OnlyFans is, at its core, a social media platform. They wanted to display their content to its fullest extent and allow people to interact with it online because the main social media platform that best caters to the visual arts, Instagram, would remove the posts, thus censoring them. The Vienna Tourist Board OnlyFans page used to cost around $5 to subscribe, but you would receive a free ticket to a Viennese museum in return, which is actually only a nice perk for locals, especially in the pandemic when there was no tourism. The page is now free to view as of November 1st, 2021. In my opinion, there should have never been a paywall. I think that this is a barrier for people who may wish to see it, for entertainment, for research, or for discussions such as this one. I also think that it sends an uncomfortable message about art containing nudity. Because why would you have to pay money to see these works when you can access the other works not containing nudity for free? Anyway, I saved us all the time and went through a multi-step authentication process, which required me to upload my ID and my card details, because the website won't let you view content, even free content, without doing that. This signing up process to the website is already a barrier to view the art, as it's time-consuming and clunky, and under 18-year-olds, for example, will probably have difficulties accessing the page. The reason why I mention this is because I think that when I was 16, just starting out on social media, it would have been lovely to see nudes by Paolo Veronese or Peter Paul Rubens, with voluptuous women and their soft curves painted so beautifully. Not everything has to be placed in a sexual context, which is actually what the Vienna Tourist Board is risking by going on the platform. On the other hand, is it really so bad, as was with the Pornhub situation, that this content is in a place that it usually isn't found? Isn't that a way to increase possible engagement from people and break down some of the stuffy walls that the arts put up on a regular basis? Art being in those places doesn't have to insinuate that the intellectual quality is diminished. It could just mean that it's being made accessible in new and interesting places. However, I do have to say that a big part of art is context. And when you place art on pornography sites without enough context to go along with it, the nuances of the platforms and the placements will have an effect on how we view them. Art is incredibly human, and that is simply a human trait. We will make judgments and associations, whether we like it or not. But what does the Vienna Tourist Board say to all of this? In a Guardian article, it was stated that the account is an act of protest against other platforms and their ongoing censorship of art. Paintings by Peter Paul Rubens or the Venus von Willendorf sculpture have all been deemed in violation of the community guidelines on Instagram and taken down. The statement they have on their OnlyFans is, quote, "The Austrian capital is home to some of the world's most famous artworks, many of which contain depictions of nudity. But the issue is that the world's biggest social networks have policies in place that ban or censor such works. We wanted to give each of these artworks the freedom they deserve, including on social media. So we started our OnlyFans account to send out a statement against the rampant censorship of explicit art by social media algorithms. Although the problem is by no means solved, we like to believe that we helped spark a global discussion. And that they did. But basically, these big platforms like Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter label these works as potentially pornographic and proceed to remove them. So where else to go other than a platform that allows for pornographic content, art or not? It's not only about artworks from art history, but also contemporary artists who may investigate the body in their practice. The platform OnlyFans wasn't launched in 2016 with the intention of it being for sex workers, but instead for creators of all kinds. Essentially, these platforms decide what to censor and what to allow, with a bunch of half-naked women in bikinis being everywhere, but a Venus von Willendorf gets taken down, or God forbid someone would see a female nipple. You can't see me right now, but I'm rolling my eyes so hard that they're nearly in the back of my head. OnlyFans is a means of allowing for artistic expression on a social media platform, but it basically all boils down to this. OnlyFans is a platform, not the be-all and end-all of ending censorship, and definitely not the solution. But it is a step in the right direction. It's a social media platform that allows for the full freedom of human artistic expression, opening up possibilities for creatives that feel restricted when their art gets censored, thus not being able to reach audiences and having a negative impact on their careers. From the point of view of developing the cultural and creative industries, the Vienna Tourist Board is onto something, and I think this avenue should be discussed, improved, and developed further. I find it ridiculous that Instagram decides to censor images like the Venus von Willendorf, but allows for so many other things to be on the platform. It's hypocritical. I understand why the Vienna Tourist Board decided to take the step and sign up to OnlyFans. It also leaves room for people who might not want to see these things on Instagram to be able to go to another platform to view it. I don't think that it's necessarily the right way. However, as I said before, it's a step. It's definitely not the right solution long term, but I do feel like they took a stand against censorship of mostly female bodies. I don't think that it was right that they had a paywall in the beginning, even if it granted free access to a museum later on, because again, it sends the wrong message about artworks that contain nudity. Another thing I want to point out is when the Vienna Tourist Board goes on OnlyFans, and it's not an initiative from the platform and the people working within it, there is a major issue of the museums and other such organizations taking up a space that sex workers have occupied for themselves as a safe environment. It may change that landscape, so these organizations and the platforms need to have thought these things through before a platform basically gets gentrified in a way. Are we putting up barriers in spaces that they don't belong when we put art and porn together? But on the flip side, have art and sex ever not been linked? I mean, if you've seen ancient Greek sculpture and pottery, you may have spotted the odd orgy or men having ropes tied to their phallic members. Or just take the example of Giulio Romano, whose paintings inspired an illustrated sex guide published in the 16th century, hundreds of years ago. It seems to me that when you stigmatize the human body, that's when nudity becomes shocking. When you openly acknowledge it, it's not a big deal because we all have bodies. In my personal opinion, I think that it's quite a cyclical process because us finding the need to somehow censor these images is what causes us to ascribe meanings of obscenity and extreme sexuality to them. I will end this episode on how I ended the first, by saying that the paintings and the drawings exist, with or without the consent of Facebook or Instagram or someone's grandpa getting mad that he sees a painted nipple. They are a part of art historical discourse, a part of our human creativity, and a reflection of European history, society, and culture in the 20th century. I really hope that you've enjoyed this episode. I do understand that this is such a rich and layered topic, so I would absolutely love to hear from you if you have any feedback or opinions. Maybe there'll be a part 3. Feel free to reach out via LinkedIn, Instagram, email, whatever suits. Thank you so much for listening. And that is it for today on All About Art. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave me a rating or a review as it helps more people discover the show. Also, feel free to share with your friends, or if you share on social media, tag me and get in touch. Thank you so much for listening.